Imagine standing beside the first person you ever saw die. They were alive yesterday. Now they are completely still. The warmth is gone. The voice is gone. The eyes never open again. For hundreds of millions of years, animals watched death happen. Most simply moved on. But one day, somewhere in Africa, a human ancestor did something different. They stayed. They looked. And for the first time, a terrifying question formed inside a human mind. Where did they go? That single question may have changed our species forever. Long before cities. Long before writing. Long before history itself. No scientist knows the exact moment it happened. There is no fossil labeled the first person to wonder about death. But archaeology leaves clues. Some of the oldest belong to our evolutionary cousins. Neanderthals. For decades, archaeologists debated whether Neanderthals buried their dead intentionally. Sites across Europe and Western Asia suggest many probably did. Bodies were carefully placed inside shallow graves. Sometimes curled into sleeping positions. Sometimes surrounded by stone tools. Sometimes covered with earth. Whether every burial carried spiritual meaning remains controversial. But one fact is difficult to ignore. Someone cared enough to stop. To dig. To place a body carefully into the ground. Death had become more than a disappearing body. It had become an event. Then came Homo sapiens. Around 100,000 years ago, burials became even more elaborate. At sites like Skull Cave in modern-day Israel, archaeologists discovered carefully buried humans accompanied by animal remains. At Sungur in Russia, people were buried with thousands of ivory beads painstakingly carved by hand. Some graves contained red ochre, a bright iron-rich pigment. Why spend hundreds of hours decorating someone who could never see it? The dead no longer benefited. The living did. Professor Ernest Becker believed humanity became unique when we realized two impossible truths at once. We desperately want to live. Yet we know we cannot. He argued that civilization itself became a way of coping with that unbearable contradiction. Whether Becker was entirely right remains debated. But his question still haunts psychology today. What happens when an animal knows it must die? No other species leaves behind cathedrals, or pyramids, or books promising eternal life. Humans do. Could every civilization begin with a funeral? Anthropologist Pascal Boyer argues that the human brain naturally searches for agency. If a branch moves, we instinctively imagine something caused it. Better to mistake the wind for a predator than ignore a real danger. This survival shortcut helped our ancestors stay alive. But it may also have changed how they understood death. A body stopped moving. Yet memories remained alive. Dreams brought lost relatives back. Voices echoed inside memory. The dead felt strangely present. Perhaps they had gone somewhere. Perhaps they still watched. Ideas like these appear independently across cultures separated by oceans and thousands of years. Ancient Egypt prepared bodies for another journey. The Maya believed rulers crossed into supernatural worlds. Traditional Chinese ancestor rituals honored generations long after death. Australian Aboriginal traditions connected ancestors to the dreaming. Different stories. The same question. Where did they go? Neuroscientist Bruce Greyson has spent decades studying near-death experiences. Many patients report remarkably similar memories. Bright lights. Out-of-body sensations. Powerful feelings of peace. These experiences are real to the people who report them. But scientists continue debating what causes them. Changes in oxygen, activity inside dying brains, or something we still do not understand. Science has not reached a final answer. That uncertainty keeps the mystery alive. Evolutionary psychologists believe our awareness of death shaped nearly everything humans built afterward. Families, laws, religions, empires, art, legacy. If life ends, then meaning suddenly matters. If time is limited, every choice becomes heavier. Every goodbye becomes more valuable. Every child becomes a future you will never fully see. This awareness transformed survival into purpose. You can still see it today. Walk through any cemetery. The stones are covered with names, dates, messages, stories. People fighting one final battle against being forgotten. Memory became humanity's second life. Perhaps that is why we write books, paint portraits, build monuments, tell stories, plant trees whose shade we will never sit beneath. Every generation whispers to the next, "Remember me." Psychologist Sheldon Solomon helped develop terror management theory. His research suggests reminders of death influence human behavior far more than we realize. When people think about mortality, they often become more protective of their beliefs, more loyal to their groups, more determined to leave something behind. Death shapes the living every single day, usually without us noticing. The oldest question never disappeared. Children still ask it. Philosophers still debate it. Scientists still investigate it. Religions still answer it differently. No telescope has found heaven. No microscope has discovered a soul. No equation has solved mortality. Yet the question survives, passed from one generation to the next, for tens of thousands of years. Maybe that is the real discovery. The first human who wondered what happens after death never received an answer. Neither have we. But the search itself transformed a clever ape into a species that builds civilizations, writes poetry, explores the universe, and dreams beyond its own lifetime. Perhaps the greatest legacy of death is not that life ends. It is that knowing it ends gave humans a reason to ask what life truly means. People often imagine ancient humans sitting around fires, inventing stories to comfort themselves. The truth may be even stranger. The stories may have helped them cooperate. If your tribe believed your ancestors were still watching, cheating became more dangerous. Kindness became more valuable. Promises became more meaningful. Invisible observers can influence visible behavior. Modern psychologists have repeatedly found that people often act more honestly when they simply feel watched. Even a picture of a pair of eyes can increase cooperative behavior in some experiments. Whether our ancestors understood the psychology is beside the point. They understood the feeling. You were never completely alone. Death also changed the way humans understood time. Most animals live inside the present. Humans learned to imagine futures they would never witness. A farmer plants an orchard. A builder lays the foundation of a cathedral. A scientist begins research that may not bear fruit for generations. All of them are making peace with time. All of them are accepting that someone else will finish the story. That idea is astonishing. Your body is temporary. Your actions may not be. Culture became humanity's greatest survival strategy. Knowledge no longer died with the individual. Parents taught children. Children taught their own children. Ideas became immortal long before people believed they could be. Perhaps that is humanity's real superpower. Not stronger muscles. Not sharper teeth. Shared memory. Every library is a victory over death. Every photograph steals a moment from time. Every recording preserves a voice that would otherwise disappear forever. Technology did not erase our fear of death. It amplified our fight against forgetting. Today we leave behind emails, videos, books, messages, millions of digital footprints. Never before has a species recorded itself so completely. And yet the oldest question remains exactly the same. Where did they go? Science continues searching. Religion continues believing. Philosophy continues asking. Each approaches the mystery from a different direction. None has ended the conversation. Perhaps that is exactly why the question endures. Some mysteries are valuable because they remain unsolved. They force every generation to think, to imagine, to create, to hope. The first human who looked at death could never have imagined telescopes, or particle accelerators, or brain scanners. Yet every one of those inventions grew from the same curiosity. The desire to understand what lies beyond the edge of the known world. Death may have been the first mystery, but it taught humans how to chase every mystery that followed. And perhaps that is the greatest inheritance ever left by those who came before us. Not an answer. A question. Someone else learned how to make fire. Someone else mapped the stars. Someone else invented numbers. Someone else asked impossible questions, and then handed the answers forward. That chain has never been broken. For more than 100,000 years. Every generation inherited curiosity from the one before it. Not through genes alone. Through stories. Through teaching. Through memory. Perhaps that is why we still gather around fires today. The fire has changed. Sometimes it is a television. Sometimes it is a phone. Sometimes it is a classroom. Sometimes it is a documentary like this. But the instinct remains exactly the same. We gather. We listen. We wonder. We pass the question on. One day, someone will stand beside us for the last time. Just as countless humans have done before. They may ask the same question our ancestors asked. Where did they go? No generation has answered it completely. Maybe no generation ever will. Yet every attempt has pushed humanity a little farther. Toward science. Toward philosophy. Toward compassion. Toward understanding. Perhaps the greatest achievement of our species was never discovering every answer,